Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Feliciano Live. We're here today with Dr. Kate Ashley. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Information Management and Business Analytics here at the Feliciano School of Business. We are talking about the summer travel trends. As we go through this interview, please feel free to ask questions, and we'll get to as many as we can. So, Dr. Ashley, welcome. Our first question is, what are your predictions for the 2018 summer travel season in terms of, for instance, the percentage of Americans traveling, the most popular destinations, and the airfare levels customers can expect?
Sure. So thanks, Phil. So summer's always a busy time for travel, due in large part to the academic school breaks in the United States. So this year, an estimated 60 million U.S. households will be traveling. That's almost half of all U.S. households, and it's an increase from last year. So a lot of folks traveling this year. And of those traveling, about 85% will be taking domestic trips. The rest will be headed somewhere abroad. So road trips are always popular, national parks, cities up and down the eastern seaboard, things like that for those traveling domestically. And of course, major European cities are popular international destinations. Now, in terms of airfares, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, has forecast that the airlines are going to generate $834 billion in revenue this year, which is a record high for the industry. So what does that mean? It means we're in a very strong demand environment for air travel, and we have seen some increases in airfares so far. So oil prices are fairly high right now and have been for quite a while. What we usually see is about a year after oil prices increase, that's reflected in higher airfares. So we're starting to see those increases now and could continue to see some higher fares into the fall because of this strong demand environment. There's still a lot of people traveling despite the fare increases that we've seen so far.
Great. So for those of you who just joined us, we're here with Dr. Kate Ashley. She's an assistant professor here at the Feliciano School of Business in the Department of Information Management and Business Analytics. We're talking about summer travel trends. Our next question is, do you think the federal government should block airlines from overbooking flights?
So this can be a little bit of a controversial question. And in short, no, I don't think that the government should intervene and prevent airlines from overbooking flights. But to answer this question, we really need to understand why airlines overbook in the first place. So we're talking about an industry with very tight profit margins overall. So IATA, again, has forecast about 4.1% profit margin as an industry average this year. So that's better than not making money, but it's still not really a comfortable profit margin for the industry, right? And that's just the global average, which means there's many air carriers who are making a significantly smaller profit than that. So we're talking about an industry with thin margins. And the airlines are very sophisticated practitioners of analytics. So overbooking is just one of many tools that they use to manage their capacity efficiently and maximize the revenue that they're getting out of it. Now, the reality is about 7 to 8% of all bookings end up being no-shows. And overbooking is a way that airlines can account for that and prevent the lost revenue that would occur if they're flying empty seats. So, rather than preventing airlines from overbooking, which would likely result in higher airfare levels overall, as the airlines compensate for that lost revenue, I think where regulation could be helpful is in enforcing consumer protections in cases where passengers are involuntarily bumped. So when passengers are bumped, first of all, it's much more frequent that they're bumped voluntarily, meaning they volunteer to give up their seat in exchange for compensation from the airline. So that happens more than 15 times more often than the involuntary bumped passengers. I think what's happened recently is some of those involuntary cases have gotten a lot of media attention, certainly were not handled effectively by the airlines. And so regulators should step in to ensure that customers are treated fairly in those unfortunate cases where passengers are being bumped involuntarily. And a trend I've noticed recently is airlines are doing more and more to reduce the number of involuntary bumpings they have to do. For instance, they may ask passengers ahead of time when they're checking in online, how much would you accept as compensation to take a later flight. So what they're trying to do is, as efficiently as possible, identify the passengers who are willing to take a later flight and able to take that later flight. And that way they can avoid the case where someone is already on the plane and is denied the right to fly.
Great. Thank you for joining us. We're here with Dr. Kate Ashley from our Department of Information Management and Business Analytics here at the Feliciano School of Business. We're talking about summer travel trends. Our next question is, how is dynamic pricing impacting the travel industry, and what can travelers do to get the best deals in this environment?
So first of all, let me just talk a little bit about what we mean by dynamic pricing. So dynamic pricing is something we've seen in the airline ticket market for a long time, and it just means that prices can vary based on a number of different dimensions. It could be the time that you purchase the ticket. It could be the time of day or day of week that you're going to consume the service, or a number of other factors, including now live demand conditions, weather, things like that. So while we've seen this for a long time in the airline industry, what's happening now is we're seeing this in more and more different industries. So for example, museums, zoos, live events are all varying their ticket prices by day of week, time of day, and as I mentioned, live demand conditions, how many people are actually there, how busy they are. So for travelers, this really means as much as you can plan ahead and identify the best time to go, if you're able to fit it into your schedule at a time when the cost is lower, then dynamic pricing can actually be beneficial to you. Right, so often when dynamic pricing is initially introduced in an industry, it may seem unfair to charge a different price on a different day of the week or at a different time. However, the thing to keep in mind as a consumer is while this could mean higher prices at certain peak times, it can also mean you can find some great deals if you're able to, say, attend the zoo on a less popular day or at a less popular time. So I think it's even more important now than ever to plan ahead, research the pricing schedule for whatever attractions you're interested in visiting, and booking ahead online is another form of dynamic pricing we often see. A lot of times if you buy the ticket in advance, you're going to get a better deal than if you show up and buy it at the door.
Great. Our next question is, what are the costliest travel mistakes?
So kind of following on that, I think at a high level, the biggest mistake is failing to plan. So the more you can plan ahead, research your destination, the better deals you're going to be able to get. So this extends to researching weather conditions so that you can pack appropriately and avoid last-minute purchases when you're at your destination, kind of planning out an itinerary, and as much as you're able to, strategically visiting different places at the best time for you and when the prices might be most favorable. In terms of when to book, there's no hard and fast rule anymore about, say, always book on Tuesdays. The problem with rules of thumb like that is that as soon as they're out there, they're probably not quite true anymore. So airlines and other service providers are very sophisticated and are changing their pricing policies very frequently. But, as a general rule, between 30 to 60 days out for domestic travel and 60 to 90 days out for international travel is a good time to book. You can definitely take advantage of fare tracking tools on Google Flights or Kayak or other similar travel sites. But in general, kind of planning ahead as much as you can is going to get you the best deals when you're traveling.
Great. Our next question is, what money-saving tips do you have for travelers staying in the U.S. and those traveling abroad?
So kind of again, in the same vein, I think start your planning as early as possible. And the more flexible you can be when you're in the planning stage, the better you're going to do in terms of getting good deals. So, let's say you want to plan a trip to Europe, maybe be open to numerous destinations, or at least numerous airports that you could fly into, and then you could take a train to another city, things like that. So when you're in the planning stage, be as flexible as possible. Consider a wide set of alternatives if you want to be able to get the best deal. And then, my recommendation would be to, once you make your decision and book your flight, don't look at those the fare trackers anymore. From a behavioral economics standpoint, the utility we get from a trip is not just about the dollars we pay. It's how we feel about the deal that we got. So plan ahead. Make your booking. Try to make your booking at an ideal time. Use the information that's available to you, and then once you purchase the ticket, go out and enjoy your trip. And don't keep watching the fares in case they do go down, because that will just make you feel worse about the fare that you did pay.
Okay, so before we ask the final question, we want to thank Dr. Ashley for her time. So what would you say will be the final recommendation for summer travel?
So related to what I just said, my recommendation would be to really, kind of decide what you're going to spend, and then it's great to get a good deal, but you want to make sure that doesn't interfere with your enjoyment of the trip. So set aside the money you're going to spend, do what you can in advance to optimize the trip that you're planning. But beyond that, don't worry about it too much. Enjoy. This is a great time to travel, and there's so many amazing places to visit this summer.
Great. So thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time at our next Feliciano Live. Have a great day.